Discover the shocking surprise of a lifetime. My unexpected visit unveiled a heartwarming message. Amy sat at her kitchen table, the late afternoon sun streaming through the window, reflecting off the piles of bills that seemed to multiply each month. Her heart raced as she opened a letter that felt impossibly heavy in her hands. It was from a law firm she had never heard of, informing her of her Uncle Tom's passing. The words, inheritance, and family ranch, jumped off the page, but they brought more than just a sense of loss. They brought an overwhelming weight of responsibility. Her mind flickered back to childhood memories, family gatherings, laughter under the old oak tree, stories shared over warm meals. Yet those memories were overshadowed by the daunting tasks ahead. How could she balance her teaching job, support her ailing mother, and now manage a rundown property? The thought of the ranch left her feeling nauseated. She couldn't even afford to get her mother's medicine regularly, let alone maintain a dilapidated ranch. As she glanced around her modest kitchen, each familiar item felt like a reminder of everything she lacked. The walls closed in around her, echoes of her mother's lingering illness creating a heavy silence. Amy hesitated, grappling with conflicting emotions. Could she turn the ranch into something meaningful, or was it a burden that would drag her further down? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With her mind racing, Amy drove out to the ranch. The once vibrant land stood in disrepair, but the memories stirred something deep within her. As she stepped inside, the air heavy with dust, the shadows of the past swirled around her. She pictured her Uncle Tom's dreams of revitalizing the place, of turning it into a haven for the community. The thought ignited a flicker of hope in her chest. But hope was mingled with doubt. Would her friends support her, or would they see her as the inheritor of a fading dream? Would they back her against the marauding developer eyeing the property for a shopping center? As tension bubbled, she could almost hear whispered conversations from the townsfolk. They were torn between the allure of an economic boost and the emotional pull of their shared heritage. Just when it seemed she might find a way forward, she received a text that sent a chill down her spine. You don't know the full truth about your uncle or the ranch. Confusion enveloped her, gnawing at her insides as questions bounced around in her mind. What truth? Was there something more hidden beneath the surface of the family legacy? With her heart pounding and her resolve faltering, Amy stood at a precipice. One path led toward confronting her community about the ranch, while the other promised a murky mystery that threatened to unravel everything she believed. The stakes were higher than ever, and both her future and her family's love hung delicately in the balance. What would she choose, and would the clarity she sought only plunge her deeper into uncertainty? Amy stood in the dim light of the ranch house, the weight of uncertainty wrapping around her like a heavy blanket. Every creak of the floorboards seemed to echo her hesitation. She could either confront the unsettling text that raised questions about her uncle and the property, or she could attempt to rally her friends and neighbors, hoping to turn the infamous ranch into a community sanctuary. The flickering shadows on the wall conjured images of her uncle's passion. The idea of leaving his dream to wither away felt wrong, yet inadequacy gnawed at her. On the drive over, she had imagined the ranch bustling with children laughing and adults connecting, perhaps even rediscovering their roots. But here, in the silence, it all felt like an impossible fantasy. Deciding she needed answers, Amy pulled out her phone, her fingers hovering over the screen. The anonymous text nagged at her, insistent and ominous. What could be so unsettling about her uncle's legacy? She took a deep breath, steeling herself for what lay ahead. A quick search revealed the law firm's number, and she dialed, adrenaline pulsing through her. Law Office of Hargrove, how may I assist you? A polite voice answered, swallowing her nerves. She uttered her name. I'm calling about my Uncle Tom's estate. Ah yes, Ms. Roberts. Just a moment. There was a pause. I'll connect you with Mr. Hargrove. While waiting, the thoughts spiraled in her mind. Could Uncle Tom have been involved in something that might jeopardize her future? Destroyed assets, hidden debts. Her pulse quickened. The weight of responsibility pressed down harder. Ms. Roberts? A deep voice broke through her anxiety. This is Mr. Hargrove. I understand you're seeking information regarding your inheritance. Yes, I received a letter, but I don't understand everything, she replied, her voice trembling slightly. The text I received mentioned a truth about my uncle and the ranch. Ah, he sighed, a heaviness behind the word. Your uncle was involved in a controversial project with local developers. He was trying to convert part of the land into something beneficial for the community, an eco-friendly retreat, but not everyone was on board. His plans encountered significant resistance. The revelation struck Amy like a thunderclap. Uncle Tom had been fighting against the very forces that now loomed over her decision. Why wasn't I informed of this sooner? There have been complications. The project was never formalized due to, various doubts about its viability and ethics. I think your uncle hoped you might bring a fresh perspective, he explained, his voice steady yet gentle. Fresh perspective? She scoffed. I'm a schoolteacher facing my own struggles. What could I possibly do? Sometimes, Ms. Roberts, challenges reveal strengths we never knew we had. You have a connection to this land that few others do. It's yours now, and with it comes the possibility of writing a new narrative. His words clanged around her mind, igniting sparks of determination. The notion of embracing her heritage, of battling for something meaningful, began to transform her despair into resolve. The ranch was a legacy, not just a burden. Thank you, Mr. Hargrove, she said, a newfound clarity emerging. I have more to consider. As she hung up, her surroundings began to shift in her perception. The dust-covered furniture and peeling wallpaper turned into symbols of potential rather than decay. Amy imagined the ranch revitalized, filled with laughter and community over a shared vision. But was she prepared to accept this mantle? The developers were still eyeing the property with ambition, and time was running out. The call had sparked something in her, but it was just the beginning. Facing the developers required guts and strategy. Would her feelings of inadequacy hold her hostage, or could Amy find the strength to combat the darkness encroaching on her family's legacy? Taking a deep breath, she stepped outside, letting the fresh air fill her lungs. Determination surged through her. The time had come to embrace not just the inheritance, but also the fight. Ahead. What truth awaited her among the echoes of the ranch, and would she step up to defend not just her uncle's dream but also her potential? With every step, Amy felt the stakes amplifying. She was not just fighting for her family but for a dream that could resonate through generations. The developers were coming, and soon she'd need to put her newfound determination into action. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue over the ranch. With every breath, Amy's determination crystallized, each inhalation a reminder of the potential unfolding before her. Yet, with that determination came an undeniable sense of dread. Could she truly mobilize the community to challenge the developers who only saw profit in their plans? Her mind raced as she walked the familiar path, leading to her uncle's workshop. Tools lay scattered across the workbench, remnants of projects left incomplete. She ran her fingers over the dusty wood, imagining Uncle Tom here, a steadfast man whose dream wove together land, love, and legacy. It was a bittersweet reminder of everything he had fought for. What if his vision was worth pursuing? Not merely for her, but for the land that had shaped generations. A place where stories lingered in the soil and memories echoed through the walls. Even in its dilapidated state, the ranch held untapped promise. The question now was how to awaken that promise. An impulsive idea surged within her as she considered her options. A meeting. Not just with friends but with everyone who could potentially help preserve the land. She envisioned a gathering, a chance to share her uncle's story, to cast a vision that would galvanize her neighbors. But how could she possibly persuade them to back her against the looming threat? The limitations of her everyday life flashed through her mind. Teaching children about history and culture couldn't prepare her for this fight. Yet, wasn't that the very essence of education? To empower individuals to stand up for what's right. Perhaps the strength she needed had been inside her all along, just waiting for the right moment to surface. Dialing her closest friends, she initiated a series of conversations, expressing her views and the urgency of the situation. Each call ignited a spark, her words carrying an energy she didn't expect. Surprisingly, her friends responded with enthusiasm, encouraging her to focus on the ranch's inherent value rather than the threat. "You have a story," one of them said. "People connect with stories. Your uncle's dream could unite us." The collective energy from her conversations rekindled not just her spirit, but an ambition simmering just below the surface. People were drawn to sincerity, to authenticity. Her narrative became the bridge between her uncle's dreams and the community's collective future. However, doubt nagged at her. What if no one showed up? What if her inexperience overshadowed her passion? She considered the landscape. It was deceptively beautiful, yet hiding complexities that mirrored her own internal struggles. Setting up the meeting felt monumental, each detail required scrutiny. Would there be enough chairs? What if people doubted her intentions? As the day loomed closer, the pressure felt overwhelming, yet she clung to the truth Mr. Hargrove instilled in her. Challenges often reveal hidden strengths. As night descended, enveloping the ranch in silence, Amy sat beneath a sky filled with stars, beautiful, yet vast. She thought of her uncle's spirit, of the legacy at stake, and whispered a silent vow to honor it. The journey ahead was far from straightforward. She needed to confront her inadequacies, embrace her potential, and cultivate belief in herself and the community. In the midst of her resolution, a sudden sound triggered her alertness, a rustling just beyond the tree line. The faint outline of shadows stirred her unease. Who else lingered in the darkness? Each second weighed heavily, steeped in uncertainty. It was time to confront not just the developers, but the doubts that were now creeping into the corners of her resolve. With an electrifying pulse of determination, Amy stepped forward, ready to unveil her plans. The stakes hung high, and clarity surged within her. Little did she know, secrets intertwined with the ranch were about to surface, revealing truths that would test her resolve like never before. Would she be able to confront them head-on, and would they challenge everything she thought she knew about her family and herself? The next day dawned with an eerie stillness, as if the world braced itself for the changes Amy was about to unleash. The sunlight penetrated the workshop windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, yet inside, Amy felt a heavy weight pressing down on her chest. The promise of engagement was exhilarating, but fear clawed at the edges of her resolve. Her first task was preparing the workshop. Amy meticulously arranged every tool, every chair, ensuring everything was in place for the gathering she envisioned. The act of tidying up morphed into a ritual. With every item she neatly set down, she found clarity. She recalled moments with Uncle Tom, how he insisted that plans thrive in organized chaos. "It's the act of creating that inspires belief," he would say, a citadel of wisdom grounding her resolve. As she wiped the workbench, her phone buzzed, the first RSVP from her friend Tina. "Can't wait to hear your thoughts." The message read. A sense of relief washed over Amy. If even one person was committed, perhaps it wasn't as futile as she feared. Each subsequent text brought more confirmations, and a flicker of hope ignited within her, but still, self-doubt lurked in the shadows. What if her words didn't resonate? What if she stumbled over her story, or worse, if it turned out no one understood her passion? She took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of raw wood and metal. In that moment, Amy understood she needed to step beyond the bounds of her classroom. The afternoon arrived quickly, a flurry of excitement and tension swirling in the warm breeze. Amy stepped outside, feeling the sun warm her skin as she laid out chairs beneath the old oak tree, the same one that had witnessed her childhood adventures. She chose that spot deliberately. It was a place of memories, a nexus where stories converged. As the time approached, her heart began to race, and she caught sight of familiar faces emerging from the distance. One by one, neighbors trickled onto the property, drawn by the whispers of what the ranch represented. As they gathered, Amy's presence transformed from one of self-doubt to a beacon of hope. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped the podium she fashioned from old planks. The crowd quieted down, their eyes fixed on her. "Today, we honor my Uncle Tom's legacy, a legacy intertwined with this land. It's not just about preserving a piece of property, it's about saving our stories, our history. The encouraging nods and murmurs from the crowd soothed her nerves, as she continued, her voice gaining strength. I need your support to protect this ranch from the developers who would erase it for profit. But more than that, I need to know if we still believe in the dreams that built this community. Yet, just as she gathered momentum, a shadow loomed over her words. A figure approached, unmistakable even from afar, Mr. Caldwell, the infamous developer. The air grew thick, tension rippling through the crowd as he interrupted her, his voice smooth yet laced with condescension. Really, Amy? You think you can stop progress with a few sentimental tales? The rustling crowd turned to her, their gazes oscillating between hope and apprehension. She felt the wind shift, and the moment hung in the balance. It became clear, this wasn't just a battle for the land, but a confrontation with everything she was. As her heart pounded like a war drum, Amy faced him, ready to forge a new path amidst swirling uncertainty. The stakes had just escalated dramatically, and she could feel it in her bones. The time had come to stand her ground. Would she rise to the occasion, or crumble under the weight of this unexpected challenge? The murmur of the crowd swirled like autumn leaves caught in a gust, their faces a blend of curiosity and concern. A wave of heat rushed through Amy, her palms were slick against the rough wood of her podium. In that charged moment, she realized she was being tested. Mr. Caldwell stood before her, the embodiment of everything she opposed, symbolizing the cold, impersonal force of progress that threatened the very fabric of her community. Sentimental tales? She echoed, grounding herself in her truth. It's much more than that, Mr. Caldwell. This isn't merely about land, it's about identity, family, and the future we envision for the generations that will follow. Her voice was steadier now, carrying an undercurrent of resolve she hadn't known existed within her. The tension in the crowd relaxed slightly, as an unspoken agreement formed among them to support her claim. Yes, let us talk about progress, she continued, locking eyes with him, unwilling to shy away. What kind of progress erases the stories that define us? You see this ranch as a development opportunity, but for us, it's a living narrative. Every crack in its walls tells us where we've been. The immediate reaction in the crowd was palpable. A murmur of approval rippled through, emboldening Amy. She felt the energy shift, like a pivot point had been reached. Perhaps the course of their conversation could change the tide. She could sense her own potential rising like a tide within her, but as she focused on her next point, she caught him smirking, and it twisted something deep within her. The opposing force of his presence threatened to derail her efforts. Why did he dismiss her words so easily? What made her story feel insignificant to him? She swallowed the doubt creeping back into her mind. This was not the moment for worry. I invite you, Mr. Caldwell, to spend a day here on the ranch. Walk through our past, listen to our memories. You might find that there's more to this land than just soil and timber. The challenge hung in the air, daring him to accept. Even as her heart raced, she sensed a shift within herself, an instinct to reclaim her narrative. The light-hearted chatter of the crowd had turned into a murmur of surprise and approval. They admired her boldness, and she grasped how this moment could redefine her role. It wasn't just about saving the ranch now, it was about asserting her identity against an adversary who wanted to diminish it. Caldwell raised an eyebrow, the smirk never waning. Sounds like a waste of time, but hey, I'm always up for some laughs. Why don't you gather your little supporters and try to convince me? Turning the slight into motivation, Amy recognized this was no longer just a defense of her childhood home, it had become a declaration of who she was. A small flicker of defiance ignited within her, sparking a determination she hadn't realized she possessed. After he left, the crowd that formed around her buzzed with adrenaline. They looked to her for direction, a beacon of hope in the face of uncertainty. Words flowed forth, fueled by newfound courage. She engaged them in discussions about strategies for preserving their legacy, entrusting her vision to the people who had gathered around her. Yet, as the conversations deepened, Amy felt an unsettling truth creeping into her awareness. What stood before her wasn't just a battle against Caldwell, she was grappling with her very self. Doubts slipped back into her mind. Had she merely been fortunate to have garnered some support, Or did she truly have the capacity to inspire collective action against a formidable opponent? As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the yard, the sense of unity felt fragile. Did she have the strength to follow through on this new journey? The stakes were higher than she had anticipated, and with this newfound clarity came a lurking fear. Determined to stand firm, she faced the crowd once more. Let us take this challenge one step at a time. I'll prepare for Mr. Caldwell's visit, and together, we will showcase what this place means to us. From the corner of her eye, she spotted an old photograph of her uncle pinned to the board. His encouraging smile seemed to uplift her spirit. In that moment, she sensed destiny unfolding before her amidst the turbulence, but the next step loomed large against the horizon. Could she truly confront Caldwell and navigate the complexities of these personal connections she was forging? The air crackled with uncertainty as she turned back to her neighbors, the question echoing in her mind: would this journey towards self-discovery take her deeper than she ever imagined? As the days passed, Amy channeled her uncertainty into preparation. Each morning became a ritual of focus, where she orchestrated plans, crafted narratives, and refined arguments. More than ever, she needed to embody the spirit of the ranch and the legacy tied to it. Although the warmth of community support lingered, Amy found herself grappling with internal complexities that brought dread to her heart. She would sit in her uncle's old chair, running her fingers across the weathered wood, seeking clarity in the creased photographs and faded mementos surrounding her. They were remnants of a lineage that thrived on resilience, where every mark in the wood, every crack in the walls, told tales of perseverance. Reminders like this fueled her resolve to not just defend her land, but to reflect the strength of those who had come before her. With Caldwell's visit looming, Amy felt a pull between the woman she was and the one she needed to become. Doubts flickered in her mind like candle flames threatened by a gusty wind. Who was she to confront someone so colossal and seemingly impenetrable? Yet, the more she considered it, the more she recognized a pivotal truth. The disruption he represented was not merely an attack on land. It was a challenge to her identity, to what she stood for. On the afternoon of Caldwell's impending visit, she gathered her thoughts in front of an audience that awaited direction. The air was thick with anticipation, the shadows of autumn stretching long across the landscape. With each step, her heart beat in sync with the pulse of the earth beneath her, an acknowledgement of the past intertwined with the urgency of today. As she addressed the small group, she encouraged them to share personal stories connected to the ranch, weaving their narratives into her own. This land isn't just about us, it's a living testament of love, loss, and community, she said, her voice clearer with each word. As she spoke, her conviction grew like the very roots of the trees lining their fields. Behind her speech lay a burgeoning awareness, a realization of her own capabilities. Perhaps all those years spent on the ranch had taught her more than she had understood. Every mischievous trick played on her cousins, every sulking moment spent letting the taste of dirt-tainted air envelope her frustrations, had cultivated a tenacity in her. Those formative experiences were not merely childhood whims, they were threads weaving her identity as a leader. Yet, despite this burgeoning self-awareness, a voice of doubt still lingered at the edge of her consciousness, a fear of failure disguised as self-protection. Would the community rally behind a leader who might falter? What if she didn't have all the answers? The internal dialogue was relentless, a relentless echo that kept her on edge. That night, as shadows danced in the corners of her room, she reflected on every event leading up to this moment. She thought of Caldwell and his dismissive smirk. It became a symbol of all that she opposed. The thought infuriated her, igniting a burning motivation. I won't let him diminish me, she muttered to herself, each word reaffirming her resolve. The upcoming encounter would not only challenge Caldwell but challenge Amy herself. Would she rise or shatter under the pressure? The uncertainty was heavy, a relentless weight against her chest, but it was also exhilarating. This was her moment of truth. Standing before the mirror the next morning, she practiced her words. As her reflection stared back, a formidable woman, no longer a child lost in the shadows, a new voice emerged within her, emboldened by the experiences yet to come, and with renewed conviction, Amy knew she could not face Caldwell alone. She would embrace this journey and invite others into the revelations that awaited. But even as she prepared, she couldn't shake the creeping notion that beneath his arrogance lay a vulnerability she hadn't yet considered. Perhaps, she thought, his own desire for progress could be redefined. The doorbell rang, breaking her concentration. Time was slipping away from her grasp. The moment had arrived, and with it, an exhilarating anxiety surged in her veins. Gathering her courage, she opened the door, uncertain of whether she was about to face a formidable opponent or perhaps an unexpected ally. Amy's breath hitched as she opened the door, revealing Caldwell standing there, his imposing figure framed in the doorway. The sun cast sharp shadows across his face, augmenting the lines of age and experience etched into his skin. For a heartbeat, she hesitated, the weight of expectation pressing heavily on her chest. "Well," Caldwell began with a hint of a smirk, "I didn't expect you to be ready." The condescension dripped from his words, but she felt the air shift, an unspoken question lingering between them. Who would assert dominance today? "Come in," Amy offered, her voice steadier than she felt. Caldwell's presence was the embodiment of the corporate ambition clashing with tradition, but she forced herself to recall the lives intertwined with this land, the lives she intended to protect. As he stepped inside, she noticed his sleek attire, stark against the rustic charm of the ranch. The contrast reminded her of how far removed he was from the very essence of what she embraced. A certain defiance bubbled within her. It was a reminder that while he sought to encroach, she was rooted in something much deeper. "Nice place you have here," he said, his gaze scanning the walls adorned with photos of generations past. "Full of memories. But memories aren't going to keep the lights on or generate revenue." His faux sincerity made her skin crawl. How could someone be so dismissive of a legacy? But rather than bristle at his comment, Amy squared her shoulders and smiled inwardly at the realization of what she had prepared for. This was not just her home, it was her battleground. "I believe we can find a way to ensure both the ranch thrives and the land is respected," she countered, her tone measured and calm. The moment felt monumental, as if every word could decide the fate of everything she held dear. Caldwell raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "You seem to think the old ways can coexist with progress. How naive. Are they really old ways?" She pushed back, her heart racing. "You might see it as backward, but the values here, hard work, community, respect, have stood the test of time. They generate more than just capital, they cultivate life itself." Her words hung in the air, igniting a flicker of curiosity amidst his condescension. Was she breaking through? The glint in his eyes suggested something beneath his bravado, a fraction of respect for her audacity. But the flicker vanished as quickly as it appeared. "Look," he replied, returning to his practiced charm. "I'm not here to argue about philosophy. I have intentions for this land, business intentions, and sometimes results require sacrifices." "Yes," she interrupted, feeling the adrenaline surge through her. "But what kind of results? And at what cost?" The foundation of her conviction steadied her resolve. She was ready to challenge him directly, not just for herself, but for the essence of what this place represented. "Your attachment is emotional," he stated, voice tinged with mock consideration. "As a business decision, it's about data and potential growth." "Then let us analyze it together," she proposed boldly, sensing the underlying tension shift slightly in her favor. "What does actual growth look like when it sacrifices the heart of what we stand for?" For the first time, she saw a flicker of uncertainty dance behind his composed exterior. Could her questions be prying open the tough shell of his ambitions? Yet he quickly regained his composure, shrugging off the moment and glancing towards the sunlit fields. "We'll see," he replied, but there was something new in his tone. A challenge had been accepted. The conversation pushed beyond surface pleasantries, revealing something deeper within herself. Amy wasn't merely defending, she was negotiating. The realization that she had the power to influence the dialogue surged through her, fostering a newfound confidence. However, as the discussions continued, she sensed dark clouds gathering above the horizon, threatening a storm. Did Caldwell truly have the community's interests at heart, or was she merely a pawn in a larger game? As they stood in the room, the juxtaposition of their intentions became stark. One man sought to profit from the land's exploitation, the other was prepared to defend its legacy at all costs. With the tension between them palpable, Amy felt the weight of her journey settle upon her. This encounter was just the beginning. The stakes were rising, and so too was the challenge. "Next time," Caldwell said, already on the verge of departing, bring more to the table. I'm interested in tangible solutions. His words hung in the air as Amy closed the door behind him, heart pounding with the realization that her confrontation with him was only a prelude to something even more challenging ahead. She caught her breath, knowing full well there was no turning back now, what would entail her next steps to not just protect but to convince. Amy's resolve solidified amid the weight of uncertainty, racing towards an inevitable confrontation not just with Caldwell, but with her own understanding of what leadership truly meant. In the echoing silence that followed his departure, she dared to ask herself, could she unravel the complexities of his intentions, or would his insatiable hunger for progress consume everything she loved? In the days that followed Caldwell's visit, Amy immersed herself in a routine that felt increasingly demanding. The land she loved thrummed with life around her, but beneath the surface, she grappled with a tumult of conflicting emotions. Her heart beat in time with the rhythmic sounds of nature, yet her mind was a battleground, torn between her commitment to tradition and the pragmatic realities of modern economics. The morning sun hung low, casting golden light across the fields as she stepped outside to inspect the crops. Each stalk of wheat swaying gently reminded her of what was at stake. She had always thought of this ranch not just as a business, but as a lifeline connecting generations. Now, visions of data and profits loomed like specters in her thoughts, threatening to consume the true essence of her identity. The smell of freshly turned earth drew her closer to the soil, and with each handful she sifted through her fingers, the weight of Caldwell's condescension surfaced again. What insights could she uncover about the ranch that would not only convince him but also solidify her own stance? Perhaps a blend of innovation and respect for tradition existed, a balance that could reshape the future without severing ties to the past. She plucked her phone from her pocket and opened a spreadsheet application. Numbers danced across the screen as she began to draft ideas, new revenue streams that honored the land while appealing to Caldwell's data-driven mindset. Agritourism, partnerships with local artisans, educational workshops about sustainable farming. With every idea, she felt a spark of her old resolve igniting. Let us turn these emotional attachments into logical arguments, she muttered to herself, a strategy blooming in her mind even as self-doubt threatened to creep in. Could tangible proposals truly alter Caldwell's perspective? A swell of determination surged within her. No longer would she be the young woman clinging to nostalgia, she would become the visionary leader the ranch needed. Later that week, Amy arranged to meet with several local business owners. After years of fostering relationships, she knew who could add value to her vision. As she sat across from them in a small cafe, she articulated her plans with fervor, rallying their support for a movement that could pivot the ranch towards a sustainable future. Seeing their eyes widen with intrigue filled Amy with a sense of purpose she had feared lost. Caldwell dismisses our way of life as antiquated, but it's time to show him how viable it can be, she asserted, her voice steady and compelling. You've succeeded in your businesses without compromising principles. Together, we can create a model that respects our heritage while also yielding profits. I want to take this to him. The room hummed with agreement, their collective enthusiasm lighting a fire in her chest. They spent hours brainstorming, and for the first time, Amy felt a surge of confidence. She wasn't alone in this battle. Her ideas rooted themselves into the fabric of the community, drawing strength and support from those around her. As she left the cafe, a sense of solidarity buoyed her steps. Yet, as she neared the ranch, a dark cloud passed overhead, reminding her that this was just the beginning. Would Caldwell even listen? What if her plans were met with disdain? In the sanctuary of her office later, she reflected on everything she had learned not just from Caldwell, but through this process of shaping her response to him. She had harnessed her voice and found the strength to articulate what she believed in, unraveling her own capabilities in the process. Each question she confronted and every strategy she formed nudged her further along a path of self-discovery, transforming doubt into action. Just as she began to put the finishing touches on her presentation for Caldwell, her phone buzzed. The message from him was brief but alarming. We need to talk. I won't be available for long. A knot formed in her stomach as she stared at the screen. Was this a prelude to resolution or confrontation? The stakes were rising again, and she wondered if she was truly prepared for what was to come. As the evening sun dipped below the horizon, she steeled herself against the uncertainty. The moment had arrived. Would she emerge not just as a guardian of her ranch's legacy but as an architect of its future? She inhaled deeply, ready to face whatever lay ahead. It was time to put her newfound proposals to the ultimate test. Would her ideas be enough to sway him, or would she risk everything built up until now? Amy glanced at her reflection in the office window, watching the last rays of sunlight sink below the horizon, painting the landscape in hues of amber and violet. The impending conversation with Caldwell loomed large in her mind, a heavy weight pressing down on her resolve. She wrapped her arms around herself, desperately trying to stave off a chill that had little to do with the evening air outside. The message on her phone echoed in her thoughts. Caldwell's tone had felt both urgent and dismissive, a reminder that time was not on her side. She needed to be ready, not just with her plans but with a mindset that could challenge his. Was her vision strong enough to withstand his skepticism? As she strategized, she considered her arguments carefully. Tradition was not simply a relic, it was an evolving concept, one that could incorporate modern practices. Yet, every time she thought of Caldwell and his laser focus on the bottom line, the doubt slithered back in. What if her passionate rhetoric failed to resonate? What if he clung firmly to the notion that profit outweighs the heart of the land? Determined to prepare herself fully, she turned back to her laptop, organizing her research into a concise presentation. She pulled quotes from agricultural studies, arranged data points in compelling graphs, and illustrated her ideas through vibrant visuals of potential agritourism activities: the hiking trails, the workshops, the farm-to-table dinners. The more she immersed herself in the facts, the less daunting the conversation became, yet beneath the surface of her calculations and proposals, she sensed fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability. Her heart raced. Could she really redefine the essence of the ranch while standing firmly against someone with more experience? Would it be a battle of wills or a collaborative merging of ideas? Hours passed, vacillating between excitement and dread. The late evening hours melded into an anxious tension. Just as she thought she had solidified her arguments, a sense of isolation washed over her. Where were the grounding influences of support she'd felt in the cafe? Had that shared energy disappeared as the challenge intensified? Beneath her professional facade, a battle raged within. The fear of inadequacy gnawed at her, pulling her thoughts down a rabbit hole of what-ifs. What if Caldwell dismissed her hard work, framing it as nothing more than a fantastical dream? What if he chose tradition, leaving her no room to push for innovation? Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, a reminder of the inevitable confrontation. She gripped it tight, trying to channel the spirit of her collaborative meeting with its shared ideals into this moment. She would embrace her strength, wave goodbye to self-doubt, and dare to speak her truth. With a deep breath and a firm resolve, she selected the message and replied. "I'm ready. Let us meet." Setting the phone down, she finally allowed herself to visualize success. As her mind raced through potential scenarios, her heart thudded with hope and fear. This was not merely about a proposal, it was about asserting her vision for the ranch's future, her identity, and her belief in the land she so cherished. The sound of her phone vibrating again interrupted her thoughts. A final confirmation from Caldwell, suggesting they meet at dawn, time enough to simmer over the night's uncertainties but only to drive home the immediacy of her mission. The stakes were rising again, and she knew she may have to confront not just his views but her own insecurities. Tomorrow would not be just a test of ideas but of her spirit. As the tension shifted into urgency, Amy understood that this was her moment, a pivotal point where she could meld the traditional and modern, a chance to redefine the ranch and her role within it. Tomorrow's dawn brought a promise, but it also cursed her with anticipation. Would the sunrise usher in acceptance, or would it bring the harsh light of rejection? Whatever lay ahead, she was resolved to break the boundaries of her comfort zone, ready to engage the very heart of the matter. The night swelled with unanswered questions, each one echoing the potential of new beginnings or the weight of enduring failures. The moment had arrived to face Caldwell, and now more than ever, she understood, sometimes, the biggest leaps required confronting the scariest truths. Could she really bring him to the table of dialogue, or would this battle become a fight for the soul of the ranch? The dawn broke softly over the ranch, a kaleidoscope of colors spilling across the sky, and Amy felt a renewed sense of purpose coursing through her veins. Today was pivotal, a culmination of all her struggles and growth. She was no longer just a teacher balancing responsibilities, she was an advocate for her family's legacy, ready to confront the challenges ahead. As she arrived at the meeting spot, the sun cast a warm glow on the land she cherished. Each blade of grass, each gust of wind, whispered a promise of potential. The moment Mr. Caldwell stepped onto the property, beneath the vast canopy of the sky, the air tightened with tension. Resolved to rise to the occasion, Amy steadied herself against the memories of self-doubt that had haunted her in the shadows. "Glad we could meet, Amy," Caldwell said, his tone deceptively neutral. "Shall we get started?" "Yes," she replied, her voice firm, "but I'd like to begin with the story of this ranch, and what it means to the community." As she shared images from her childhood, the tales woven into the very fabric of the land, a subtle shift occurred. He listened, and for the first time, she noticed a flicker of interest behind his resolute demeanor. Each word she spoke painted a portrait of the significance of preserving that legacy for future generations. "Caldwell, I understand you're here to discuss progress," she continued, "but progress should not come at the expense of our identity. I propose a new narrative, one where tradition and innovation coexist." With each explanation of her agritourism vision, farm-to-table dining experiences, educational workshops, and local artisans showcasing their crafts, Amy felt her confidence solidify. As she outlined her business model, Caldwell's posture shifted from condescension to earnest curiosity. "You have solid ideas," he acknowledged. "But are they sustainable in the long run? Can you guarantee profit?" This was the moment Amy had been waiting for. "It's not just about profit," she answered, her tone unwavering. "It's about creating value, economic, social, and cultural. By respecting our heritage, we cultivate a community that thrives on shared stories and local pride, which in turn attracts tourism and investment." The gears began to turn in his mind, but Amy could sense a lingering shadow of doubt. She pressed on, drawing from her extensive research and data to substantiate her claims. The graphs illustrated not just potential profits, but projected growth patterns, data backing a vision she had meticulously crafted. The numbers served as a counterpart to her impassioned connection to the land. As the morning unfolded, Caldwell shifted from a corporate strategist into a thoughtful negotiator. Their conversation grew deeper, delving into the responsibilities of stewardship versus exploitation. Amy realized she wasn't merely defending her inheritance, she was redefining what it meant to lead, to build bridges instead of walls. "I see your point, Amy. It could be profitable to develop the ranch in a way that honors its legacy," Caldwell admitted at last, a hint of respect underscoring his words. "But I'll need community buy-in, real commitment on paper." That final condition sparked a realization. Amy no longer needed to carry this burden in isolation. "Let us present this together," she proposed, urgency and clarity crystallizing her next step. "I'll pull together the community-backed support to show that this isn't just my fight, it's ours." As the sun rose higher, illuminating the possibilities before them, Amy felt the weight of self-doubt lift. She had stepped into her role as a leader, a woman who valued heritage while daring to envision a future intertwined with respect and innovation. In that moment, she proved to herself what she was capable of, transforming vulnerability into strength, allowing her passion to drive the negotiation rather than fear. The meeting concluded not just with tentative agreement, but with an acknowledgement of something more profound, a connection. Caldwell extended his hand, not in defeat, but in partnership. "Let us work on this together." Reflecting on everything that had transpired, from hesitation and uncertainty to a triumphant confrontation, Amy stepped back and reveled in her transformation. She had embraced her identity as an advocate, a steward of her family's legacy, standing united with her community on the brink of a new beginning. With a stronger sense of self and purpose than ever before, she took a deep breath, allowing the morning air to invigorate her spirit. She was ready not just to protect the ranch but to cultivate its potential alongside her neighbors. In this newfound convergence of dreams and intentions, each individual story woven into the fabric of the ranch resonated, and she knew she wasn't just preserving history, she was creating a vibrant future that would echo for generations. This was the moment she had fought for, the resolution she had pursued relentlessly, and a resounding declaration that both tradition and progress can indeed thrive together. Now, as she prepared to galvanize the community for their next steps, she felt a driving urgency and impulse not just to share her journey but to invite others into it. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the momentum going. Comment with your reactions and theories about this ending. Your input is essential. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. It's time to inspire them. Don't wait even one more second to show your support.